growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi, everyone. You're tuned in to The Lionhearted Dentist with Dr. Steve Rasner. Thanks for tuning in. I want to get it right off the top of the table and tell you that if I say anything or you want to know anything more about something I present to you during this podcast, email me at my private email, which is my name, Dr. D.R. Rasner, R-A-S-N-E-R at AOL.com. So welcome. This is going to be a good podcast for you. I want to first thank everybody that's been following me during the last 8 weeks. There's been so many sources for you guys to take information from, good ones too. And, I've been doing this 20 some years and I never take for granted the privilege and appreciation I have that I have colleagues that value my opinions on various aspects of success, be it clinical or navigating through probably the worst obstacle of our lifetime for most of us. So it is indeed a privilege, and I thank you. And it's cool, man. Like, I have a map that shows me where the downloads for my podcast are coming from. And they're from everywhere. And, they're from South Africa and South Korea and the Middle East, Mexico, and a lot of places I've never been. All over Europe, particularly heavily downloaded in Germany, United Kingdom, and it's just a very positive affirmation for me that I have a lot of colleagues in this profession all around the world who seem to resonate with a lot of my belief systems that you should, because they've worked for 39 years. Anyway, it's not that often that I come on here, and I've just done a podcast for another organization, which I just did, and had 700 people registered and got flooded with emails. I mean, it was like pretty incredible moment for me to have that many people tuned in during this time especially, and then have them follow up on the offer of information that I give you guys every week. So we've grown a lot during this pandemic. My podcast has. And I don't know if it'll stay that way. I know you guys have a lot more time than you normally would have. But if it helps one of you every week with one item that makes your professional life better, then it is worthy for me to keep doing these. So I'm going to spin off my podcast that I just gave because so much of it is relevant, but particularly relevant to you this week, whether you're in the United States or abroad. I don't know the level that you're at. I know here in the U.S., there's a great disparity between where we're at professionally as dentists. Some of us, like in New York, the state of New York, have not been able to come back and work at all, and many of us have been worked for a couple weeks. So, what I've been saying over the last 6 or 7 podcasts about preparing for what happened this week. I had a soft opening. Let me define that. I opened on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'd say we worked on patients from 10 to 3. There was no hygiene. That doesn't start until June the 1st. And all the things that I've been sharing with you that I thought about, that I thought would help me when I came back, reaching out to patients during this time, being pretty benevolent, meaning I didn't charge anybody for 8 weeks for any emergencies I did. I just didn't. I didn't do anything dramatic. I did a lot of recementations of crowns that weren't even mine. Fixing of removable prostheses, replacing implant attachments to make a prosthesis fit more snug, these kind of things. I'm not trying to say it was heroic. I just chose to take that path for now at that time. But this was real. And even a lot of things that I've shared with you on these podcasts prior to the pandemic have come in extremely handy. It is so reaffirming to me and rewarding to know that the road I followed has repaid me already, and I'm about to explain it to you. So let me first begin right to the fact of those of you that haven't returned, my observations from week one. Number one, and I haven't talked to colleagues about this, so I don't know if this is universal. I perceived zero fear from the patients, no apprehension. Everybody presented, of course, with a mask. Everybody went through waiting in the parking lot protocols till we called them in. Everybody seemed appreciative of those new aspects, and nobody, I've heard colleagues tell me through emails that they had a patient refuse to have their temperature taken. Can you imagine? A doctor wrote to me and said he had a quote-unquote 5-star patient, and she was a personal trainer, by the way, and she refused to have her temperature taken. And he said, what would you do? And I would have to begrudgingly and heartbreakingly, if she really is a 5-star patient, I don't understand the whole story, refuse. You can't start making exceptions, and what are you? You're nothing. So I didn't have any of that. I had very cooperative, willing patients. Having my team and myself implement all these new protocols, from PPE to the traffic of the patients to complex, or at least more complex systems on how to take payments and how they exit the practice. And you got to remember, my practice is a heavy sedation practice. And even this week, several of the patients were sedated. Normally their spouse can come in to the office. And that, in fact, did happen with 1 or 2 patients because there was no one else in the office reception room at that time. Had there been, I have a big enough waiting room that I could permit at least 2 or even 3 patients and turn chairs in a way, which we did, that wouldn't permit people to sit near each other. So implementing all those new, if you don't mind, awkward protocols were surprisingly followed, implemented without much confusion or any resistance from either team or patients. 3, patients were significantly more receptive to treatment recommendations than I anticipated. I don't know. This is all new to me, guys, and it's going to be to you. And all the key opinion leaders out there that are giving you advice and webinars, they're trying their best, but they're making best guesstimates about a lot of things. I anticipated a lot of compromises when it came to me treatment planning what I really thought that patient needed for the reason they were there that moment. And that did not happen. I had willing patients. I can't say, with the exception of 1 patient, that there were significant treatment plans in front of them to make, significant financial decisions, but there were several crowns and some minor restorations, many treatment plans over $2,000 that were met with little to no resistance. Look, it's only 3 days of science, so maybe it'll change next week. But I think what I'm telling you thus far is reasonably encouraging. So, zero fear from patients. Implementing the protocols was easy. Patients seemed to accept, like they did pre-corona, treatment recommendations. 4, not all staff will be on board. What do I mean? Listen, I have 20 staff members. Many have been with me over 15 plus years. Many. Not 4 or 5. I know, at least I thought I knew, these individuals reasonably well. Be prepared to have your feelings hurt, to be surprised, to be shocked. Here's the problem, and it may not be a problem in other countries, to be fair. But the problem is, in the United States, the Congress passed the PPP stimulus package, and the problem with that is that it forces you to do certain things like hire everybody back, even if you don't need everybody back. I know that sounds crazy, my European and Asian friends. It's crazy to me. But if you don't utilize and work the system the way they ask you to, you're at great risk of the grant becoming a loan. And I assure you that myself or my colleagues in the United States aren't looking for a loan, even at 1% at this stage of our careers. So, not everybody came back. And here's the other problem. In the United States, they also stimulated the economy by giving people more reimbursement on their unemployment if they don't work than anybody's ever dreamed of. And the problem with that is that in many cases, the staff of dentists in the United States are making at least the same and maybe more by staying home. You see the problem? So that has directly impacted my office. Staff members aren't going to say that's what it was, but they're less willing to make compromises of what they need to do to get back because it is not a financial hardship for several months left for them to stay home. That's disappointing. It's heartbreaking. I mean it. I don't know whether this resonates to you right now. The guy that's been talking to you for the last year and a half believed that he has a team, which he does primarily, that felt they owned the business to some extent. By me doing many things that I've done over my career to make people feel it's not just a 9-to-5 job, it's a business that you're part ownership of. And if that was the case, I find it hard to believe that a staff member would not overlook right now the gift from the government. The gift is that by staying home and not working, you're making it. Regular unemployment prior to Corona is no picnic, but they gave us $600 for every paycheck on top of our unemployment checks. And that is the deal breaker for many of us. Do you follow me? So it has been disappointing. And other stuff too. For example, because you have to hire everybody back. And I really don't need everybody back quite yet because we don't even have hygiene patients. So I certainly don't need all the team members back. But they're getting paid full boat, 4 days, whatever they made for a full salary in 2018 and 19 is what they're getting now. Whether we work 3 days, no days, or 4 days. You follow me? So the problem is there's not excessive work for some of the staff members to do. And some members resent that because if you're at the clinic, you're in the clinic. And I know we're seeing less patients, but while you're there, it's no less than it was pre-corona. So I felt, you want me to tell you my real truth? And I feel I can say whatever I want to say to you on my podcast. If I'm doing a webinar for the ADA or somebody else, I have to probably be a little bit more measured. It's like being on general TV versus cable TV. I think some staff members demonstrated way more concern for the change of their income and the fact that they had to now work for that income than they were concerned about contracting the coronavirus personally. I absolutely believe that. And I don't take any joy in sharing that with you. And I'm telling you that because I anticipate you may run into that. And it's kind of a real arena that you need to be measured in. Listen, if I wanted to, I could go to unemployment services and say that the people who declined to come back were offered a job. Think about that for a minute, especially if you're in the United States. And I didn't do that because that will break the relationship. I have the absolute right to do that. So that's what I mean by it finds us in new ground, man, new territory with people that in some cases, like me, I have known for years. And I have to make decisions. And I was hoping that my team and your team, which I'm sure you'll have many members thinking the following, would think of the long-term goals and good of will of the organization rather than, oh, I can stay home and get pretty good money for the next 6 weeks. And then maybe I'll come back to you, doctor. It's disappointing. I'm just being honest with you. And the reason I'm sharing it is because if it happens to you, it happened to me. Next thing, what you're going to experience is very tiring physically. I've been told, and I don't know the science on it, by wearing an N95 mask, another mask, a face shield, it makes sense that the levels of oxygen are not quite as what they were while you're working. It just feels more laborious, I'm telling you. You physically and literally get more tired than you were, which is another reason I would advocate to you that you do a soft opening if that's possible. So understand, everybody listening that got a PPP loan in the United States, we know that we have 8 weeks to take advantage of this, meaning we can produce income for 2 months. And hopefully if this thing is a grant, then we are not paying for labor. And that's a beautiful concept in itself. The problem is it should never have been just 8 weeks because it depends when your state reopened, whether that's truly helpful. And my state's not even fully open yet. New Jersey. So because of that, I had to bring people back sooner than I really needed them. I could have opened up for 4 days this week. There was no reason for me not to. I deliberately did it to protect my team, to give myself a chance to feel. I haven't worked in 8 weeks. I never worked in my life with PPE equipment, and I didn't know what to expect. And I got to tell you, I'm tired right now. I don't know what I look like on video, but I feel tired, and I didn't even work today. So it's pretty important. And the last thing I'll say to you is that I am more hopeful, at least about the immediate future in dentistry, than I was before this week. I had a pretty significant first week in the office in terms of patient acceptance, patients showing up for appointments, staff cooperation, getting paid. I'm telling you, it was way more significant than I anticipated. And the way I'm going to give you specifics in a few minutes about what exactly we did, and then I'm going to continue this with next week's podcast as an elaboration of what you can expect. But I want to try to help you be prepared. What I did, and you know from my other podcast, I did many meetings with my key team members, not all of my members, for weeks preceding this. And my real top of the line management, we talked 5 times a week, briefly. And I was a director. I made the final call. So I'm the one that called for a reopening on this past Monday, May the 18th. And I can tell you that was not met with open arms by everybody, but that's what I did. And I don't regret it at all, because when I called that, our governor of our state had not finalized when we could actually go back and do elective procedures, which he now has given his voice on. And it's very ambiguous type of information. It's very hard to decipher. But most of our state is going back on June the 1st, which is when I'm opening up hygiene. So here's what happened this week. I brought everybody back. We worked in shifts. We worked the first shift from probably 9 o'clock, getting ready for the 10 o'clock patients, to finishing up around 3 o'clock. Around 2 o'clock, the afternoon shift of a minor amount of people, I would say 3, came in to start cleaning and closing out the office for the next day. We didn't normally do that. Of course, my present team would stay and do that. But I did that for a number of reasons. I want you to full disclosure. Some of my staff members, because of children at home and daycare availability, could not get to the office until mid-afternoon. So it's not me or the highway, my way or the highway. I'm trying, and I encourage you to be as flexible as you can. I would say they're getting a softer version of me right now too. And perhaps you should consider that as well. I'm thanking people a lot more. And I feel it genuinely. Look, I had about 15 of the 20 come back. And I could have had more resistance, and I'm talking to colleagues that do have more resistance. So it's a little bit more cheerleading by me. Hands around their shoulders, not literally, but figuratively. Maybe a follow-up email I sent everybody after completion of the 3 days. So these type of things. We came in an hour and a half early. I would say a core of 7 people had been to the office in earlier weeks and knew what my new protocol plans were. When I say that to you, how the patient comes in to the office now, called out of their car, screening questions that were answered on the phone when they made the appointment, re-screening questions, temperature taking, traffic flow, PPE wear, respect for you and your colleagues that are working with you, what I won't tolerate, what I expect, all kinds of stuff. And a very clear message that this all may change day to day, let alone week to week. That's what my message was. And I got to tell you, I haven't been in that environment very often with my team members where it's no BS meeting. It's a meeting where you got to get a lot of new rules in place and policies that everybody understands. Because you don't want your patients to sense disharmony, chaos, miscommunication, anything during this time. What did I do with my hygiene staff? Because we're not cleaning patients yet. I assigned my hygiene to start rescheduling, confirming their schedules starting June 1st. And some good news to you is I anticipated way more resistance from patients like, can't I wait till July? I want to wait till August. Call me in September. That did not happen. Now, maybe that'll start happening. I've always been try to give you just the facts kind of guy. And the facts for the first week are what I'm giving you. Really positive karma, positive energy. I was concerned on, well, how am I going to downscale the hygienes? And by the way, we did downscale them because as part of the new protocol, my hygiene patients are taking 75 minutes for each patient. That's a lot. To turn the rooms over, to turn their own PPEs over, all the stuff. That's a measly 6 patients a day. But that being said, there will be more than one hygiene schedule per day, according to the confirmations. And I've heard similar feedback from my colleagues across the United States. So I anticipate you're going to see the same thing. Will it be this way once we get into this for a few months? We're going to have to see. And I was very, very clear with my team, by the way, on that as well before we started. I said, at the end of the 8 weeks of the PPP money, I'm going to have to reassess where we're at, where the demand is for services, and can I maintain the entire team? And they seem to get that. Now, will they get that if I have to lay off 4 or 5 people in July or August? I guess I'll find out. I guess you'll find out. But I hope this is helping you. I'm trying to give you a sense if you haven't gone back. Or if you have gone back, you must be wondering what other people are experiencing. I have to tell you one more thing. I even had 2 new patients. And one of the patients was shockingly a $20,000 plus treatment plan paid for that day. That patient came in, again, full disclosure, that patient came in because he was in a mindset that he wanted his upper teeth out and all on 4 done. And he was not that candidate. He had terrific bone. I don't know why he thought what he thought, but I was delighted to tell him he can keep his teeth. And I'm pretty sure any of you who would examine this patient would concur with that. So listen, here's where we're at, man. We're fighting, right? You and I. We're fighting for that passion that we own in life as dentists. Not every dentist has that. I have it. I believe those that watch The Lion-Hearted Dentist have it. And that's what I'm fighting for. I guess I could retire. At this stage in my life, that is not what I'm thinking. Why would I? I get to go to this place weekly, daily, doing something that I've worked really hard to be pretty good at. And I get reaffirmation of that all the time from the patients I work on and from my team that works with me. And I also have this organization like you that I built with my sweat and tears. And I don't want to give that up. Now, if you don't have that yet, but you like dentistry, then you need to fight. If you have it, then and you love it like I do, then that's the reason that we're going to fight. And fight just means you got to be the leader. You got to have the energy, even when you don't think you have the energy. And you get it from a lot of sources, and I hope the Lion-Hearted Podcast, me, is one of them. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you more specifics, information as to what I'm experiencing as now that we're reopened. And I'm hoping to help some of you. And be sure to reach out to me at my email, Dr. Rasner, DrRasner@AOL.com. And thanks for tuning in, guys, and stay strong.